students, welcome to Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. I remain your literature teacher. All right, today we want to look at a very interesting non-African drama titled An Inspector Calls. An Inspector Calls by J.B. Priestley.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
Our focus for this class will be the themes of the drama. So at the end of this class, you will be able to summarize the plot and you'll be able to explain the themes of the play. Let's look at a very quick summary of the plot. The play opens and ends at the Berlin's house during the wedding preparation of Gerald Croft, the son of the upper class Mr. and Mrs. Croft, and Sheila, an upper middle class daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Berlin. A strange inspector who identifies as Ghoul visits and reveals how each member of the household, including Gerald, is responsible for one Eva Smith's suicide. He reports that the young attractive lady had swallowed a disinfectant following the cruel treatment by Mr. and Mrs. Berlin, Sheila, and the repeated sexual assault by both Gerald and Eric. Oh my God. Let's continue. While others try to deny responsibility for our death, Sheila and Eric are deeply remorseful. The inspector disappears after lecturing on how connected humans are, hence the need to look out for each other, irrespective of the other's social status. It was discovered that the inspector was a fake inspector. Wow. Well, just when the remorseless trio, by trio I mean Mr. and Mrs. Berlin and Gerald, Sheila's husband, those are the three persons. Just when the remorseless trio set out on jubilation, they receive a call that an Eva Smith had died on her way to the infirmary. Infirmary means hospital. And an inspector is on the way for some questions. Oh, wow. Interesting. All right, let's get down to the themes. The themes of this interesting drama. The first is duty and responsibility. We learn from the first inspector's voice that humans are meant to be responsible for one another, thus condemning the evils met out by the Berlins against Eva Smith. From the text, you find that apart from the fact that Mr. Berlin sacks Eva Smith, sacked her from a place of work, the reason for this sack is because Eva Smith, alongside some other workers, decides to raise an alarm over the amount they are being paid at work. They decided to protest against low wages. And because they were doing this quietly, Sheila finds out. Sheila Berlin, who is the daughter of Mr. Berlin, who runs a particular store, okay, a meal factory. Sheila tells Mr. Berlin, or reports the case to him with the intention that he takes disciplinary actions against Eva Smith and other co-workers along whom she has protested. And this intention is what makes Sheila remorseful, actually. that she had an hand in a sack. After she is sacked, she began to roam the streets and, to make ends meet. And this is where she meets Gerald first, at the bar. Gerald, of course, is Sheila's husband-to-be, Sheila Berlin. And we observe that from the text that Gerald secretly sleeps with Eva Smith after trying to save her from one very notorious man at the bar. He continues to use this opportunity, to sexually assault and sexually abuse Eva Smith. This is almost the same thing that Eric does. Eric also, finds her and still at the bar, and because Eric is a perpetual drunk, and so he finds her, pays her some money, and continues to sleep with her. He doesn't even love her. And this happens so powerfully that everything comes from the family of the Berlins. That's a beautiful craft by J.B. Priestley. Now, we are able to see the issue of duty and responsibility only from the voice of the inspector, the first inspector who came, Inspector Gould, who announced himself as an inspector. Let's put it that way. Because at the end of the text, we find that he is fake, and a real and original inspector was coming. So who was he? Was he some angel or something? Well, I leave you to that, to find that out. All right. The next theme we're looking at here is suicide, a rather contemporary theme that is gradually becoming a normalized way for less privileged people to end their anguish. The inspector did not only tell how the Berlins facilitated Eva's suicide, but also foreshadows what evil, lack of responsibility for one another can bring, especially in the context of the world wars. The inspector emphasizes that Eva had swallowed a disinfectant to end her anguish, because the last straw that broke the camel's back was that she got pregnant for Eric. She could not even tell Eric because she was scared. She knew that Eric never loved him. She stopped collecting money from Eric, and Eric lives just as normal. And she decides to go to a foundation that could support her. This foundation happens to be owned by Mrs. Berlin. But when she gets there, she introduces herself as Mrs. Berlin too, because she's now carrying a child of a Berlin. But Mrs. Berlin got jealous and says, what's going on? How can this lady of a lower class be bearing the same name with me? And decides to use her influence to ensure that she doesn't get the help that she came from. You can imagine that. That's a serious matter. And she had no option. The hopelessness and pain was just too much for her, and she decided to end her life. Well, this is a prototype for many persons, many marginalized persons in the England society that try to take their life or even take their lives just because they have no hope for survival. Okay? Then we have the issue of class stratification, just like I inferred earlier. I mentioned that Mrs. Berlin would not even consider a request, probably because she has nothing to offer. She's of the lower class. Okay? And she was even struggling to survive. She's just working, the working class, just working to make ends meet. But unfortunately, she was sacked unjustly. Now, the maltreatment which Eva Smith faces in the hands of the Berlins and the Crofts' rejection of Gerald's union with Sheila is essentially an issue of class differences, which is common to both the Edwardian and the Victorian eras. Now, there's something about this drama. The Edwardian is a drama written in the Edwardian era, and the period of the Edwardian period was characterized majorly by the rising consciousness of women participation in things, a kind of revolution, and then also the working class began to gain their voice. They began to speak up and find their grounds in different aspects of the society. So because of that, we see stories written during this period to reveal this development. Okay, the class issue was very common during that period. Now we think that the class issues are restricted to just the upper class and the lower class, but that's not true. We could even see elements of class differences and class stratification even between the upper class and the upper middle class. Don't forget that the Berlins are of the upper middle class, not the lower class, but just in between. Okay, the Crofts family have a company, and Berlin's father wishes that Mr. Berlin wishes that they come together. That's the family of the Crofts and the family of the Berlin come together to have a merger, since the Crofts' son, which is Gerald, is going to be marrying or is going to get married to Sheila now. So he's happy, he's excited, okay? And on the other hand, Mr. Croft is not excited. He's not happy at all about the marriage, because his son is going to be married to a person of the upper middle class, which is lower to their own rank. You can imagine the dynamics of class stratification there. And J.B. Priestley has just done justice to that by infusing that difference as well. And it shows that there are class differences and class issues across all structures of the society. Okay? The next we have here is moral guilt and penitence. Moral guilt and penitence. This is a major theme that follows the inspector's revelation. Don't forget, the inspector's revelation is the death of Eva Smith. This is a major theme that follows the inspector's revelation, demonstrated mainly by Sheila and by Eric. And even for Eric, it's only to the degree to which his almost permanent alcoholic state allows him. Eric is a known alcoholic, he's a permanent alcoholic. And sometimes he just misbehaves and, he's a shadow of himself. Sometimes he just switches his mood and the rest. But as at the time the inspector came to reveal the news, in fact, Eric was so remorseful that he reacted angrily against Mrs. Berlin. He was angry that Mrs. Berlin did not offer Eva Smith the support that she needed, and he was losing it. Everything was so hot in the house that night, and it was supposed to be a wedding night. All right, so we see the issue of remorse. Sheila was so remorseful, so terribly affected by the news, because she knew that she had a hand in Eva Smith's death by reporting. She was jealous, first because Eva Smith was a very beautiful woman, very beautiful lady. And there was a time they were trying to test a particular cloth. And the dress was perfect and beautiful on Eva Smith, but people did not appreciate the dress on her when she wore it. So she was first jealous, taken by jealousy. And then she decides to take out that jealousy on Eva Smith when Eva Smith and her co-workers decided to protest against the low wages. So she knew too well that jealousy was a major factor that led to the death of Eva Smith, even though not the immediate factor, but at least from the top, it started it. Okay, she was really remorseful and was willing to make amends, but I think it's too late. It was too late for her. The next theme that I have here is infidelity or sexual immorality. Of course, you remember that I mentioned that Gerald and Eric are major faces in this matter. Even though Gerald is seemingly in love with Sheila, he still takes advantage of Eva. And Eric does the same. Okay, so we see the issue of infidelity. He was in a relationship with Sheila. Gerard was in a relationship with Sheila. At the time, he goes ahead to sleep around, and especially with this Eva Smith. Okay, and then we have the issue of gender inequality. It is a bitter fact that in the society, and especially according to the play, women are being objectified either for sexual gratification or cheap labor. Sheila reverses this trend when she returns Gerard's ring. Gerard had already proposed to her, given her a ring, and it was supposed to be the wedding time. But upon this discovery, she thinks that Gerard is not truthful enough with her, and thinks that our gender has been perpetually the victim of infidelity, all manner of heartbreaks, and the rest, and decides to do what is right. She didn't consider that Gerard is rich or wealthy or anything of the upper class. She simply returns Gerard's ring to show that the female or the feminine gender also has a power, should also have a voice of their own. We see the case of Sheila. Probably if she was a male child, she could have defended herself more properly than she was able to before she dies. All right, now let's look at the question here. The question says, discuss any 3 themes in the play An Inspector Calls. And I'm sure that from the lesson that you have, from what we've discussed so far, you should be able to identify at least 3 of them. Major ones, like class differences, like sexual assault, infidelity, and of course, responsibility, a very major theme, which was the central message and the morale of the entire story, gotten from the mouth of the voice of the inspector, Inspector Gould. Okay, the strange Inspector Gould, to put it that way. And so those are 3 themes that you could discuss in 3 different paragraphs, making reference and giving examples from the text. Okay? Don't forget to start out by telling us a little bit about the story. That's your introduction. And then your next paragraph should be for identification of characters. In the themes that you intend to discuss, who are the key characters in those themes? You talk about them. Tell us about their role. Tell us about their traits in the second paragraph. Then go ahead to explain in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th paragraphs the 3 themes with adequate references. Then you give your conclusion. That conclusion is also very important. Please try the question on your own. Help yourself to write and give to somebody who can mark, your literature teacher most likely. All right, thank you very much for listening. If you have questions, if you have comments, please, you can reach out to us on our social media handles displayed on the screen.
Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO Candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.